Hey guys, what's up? So coming at you here again from Shanghai. Today going for a walk with my 3-year-old son next to the Suzhou Creek. He's very quick, so sometimes I also have to run to follow him. But anyway, let's talk about what's happening right now with the US-China trade conflict. Some people say it's not only a conflict about the economy, it's also a conflict about different philosophies. Namely, Sun Tzu's ancient text, Art of War, and Donald Trump's book from the 80s called Art of the Deal. I do think there's actually a lot of truth to that. If you look at Sun Tzu's strategy, there are roughly five... Oh, Marcus just saw some beautiful flowers here. Very beautiful indeed. Hello, Marcus. So, there are 5 principles, I would say, from Sun Tzu's Art of the War that we can see in the way China is acting. The first one is patience. Sun Tzu advocates that it's better to be in a strong defensive position, to observe your enemy, how they're behaving, before you act. On the other hand, Donald Trump's strategy in Art of the Deal, it's all about being very aggressive, being on the offensive, basically attacking first, and doing so in a very overpowering, overwhelming way, so that your enemy surrenders and retreats very quickly. So here we see that, for example, that's exactly what Trump did with these very high tariffs, and then China, on the other hand, basically did respond in kind, but has then been very, very quiet, basically just observing what Trump is doing. And right now that's kind of driving Trump crazy, as we can see. The second point is about information. Knowing yourself, knowing your enemy. Knowing your own strength and weakness, knowing your enemy's strength and weakness. And we can see here that based on Sun Tzu's philosophy, the emphasis is on gathering facts. Being neutral, understanding the situation and the ground. Whereas Trump, on the other hand, in Art of the Deal, openly said that he doesn't really trust experts. He believes more in his own gut instinct when he's making decisions, because he believes that so-called experts don't really understand what's happening in business, in real life. So again, 2 very different philosophies. If you're looking at what's happening right now, and the facts on the ground, we can see, for example, that yes, China is an export-driven economy, and the US is one of the biggest export markets for China. Export to the US account for something like 3-4% of Chinese GDP, which is definitely a huge part, but again, mostly affecting a few isolated, let's say, areas of China with a lot of export manufacturing. Not really affecting China overall as such. On the other hand, in the US, which is a consumer-driven economy, accounting for something like 70% of the economy, they import around 15 to 20% of the goods from China, either directly or indirectly. And that's a much higher number in certain categories, meaning that in a situation where the US has already been dealing with inflation, high interest rates, a cost of living crisis, which in a way actually helped Trump to get elected, these price increases that's coming will lead to a very big shock to the economy, and basically everybody will feel it. Not only certain sectors, like for example in logistics or in retail, but everybody who goes to shops to buy stuff will feel it. And is coming at the worst possible time. China definitely understands the situation, and they believe they have leverage. On the other hand, it seems like Trump still thinks he has leverage. So it remains to be seen who is right about this. The third point is about precision. So Sun Tzu likens a strategy to bending a bow. You take your time, you bend the bow, you basically put your power in the bow, you aim carefully, And then, when the time is right to make a decision, you fire, you shoot. You want to basically be in a position to win the battle before it's over. You don't want to start a battle and then work things out as it comes. And here we can see with Trump that basically he started a war against the whole world with Liberation Day, not only economically but also politically, strategically. He was fighting with his closest allies, Europe and Canada, Mexico, right before he started a trade war against them. And now with China, basically seeing how things develop as they come. So it's really the opposite to Chinese strategy. And this also leads to the fourth point, which is divide and conquer. Sun Tzu believed it was very dangerous to attack a unified enemy who was unified at home, politically, and also unified with his allies. So the best strategy in that case is to work with diplomacy, work with your political charm, to divide and conquer. That way you can pick your enemies apart one by one. With Trump, that strategy actually is quite easy because he did that by himself, dividing his allies away from him, attacking them the same time as he's attacking China. And also, of course, we all know the US is very divided at home, and that in a few weeks when the prices will increase, because of course there's a delay, right? When you import from China, it takes roughly 6 weeks to 8 weeks before the goods are on the shelf. So the full impact of this blockade against China isn't really being felt yet, but it will be felt a few weeks from now. And then the US will also become more and more divided internally because the price will be very high to pay for this trade war. So China, on the other hand, is quite unified. Yes, some sectors will suffer. The economy will definitely not grow as much as it would otherwise, but they're definitely more unified at home. They also know how to control the narrative. I mean, that's what they have always been doing. Fifth is deception. Again, controlling the narrative, making your enemy believe you're strong, even if you're not, making yourself look weak where you are strong. Basically, encouraging your enemy to attack where you are strong. If you're dealing with a hothead, a choleric opponent, even better. You play with your opponent's ego to let him make mistakes. And we saw that very quickly in the trade conflict with China, where basically, rather than as Europe did when Trump put the tariffs, tried to negotiate, tried to calm things down, China increased the tariffs. I guess also knowing that Trump would respond very aggressively the way he did, eventually increasing the tariffs to 145%, which is really a blockade, making the situation much more difficult for Trump to manage in the long run. So that's where we are today. Let's see how things develop. I do believe that China still believes it's winning this conflict. That's why they're not backing down yet. That's why they don't even want to call Trump, because they know they have a winning position. A couple of weeks ago, there was some media, some leaked sources saying that China was willing to speak about trade again with Trump, but also including the topic about Taiwan. That's an indication of how strong they believe their position is, because what China really wants, more than a trade deal, is to secure Taiwan. And now they think their hand is so strong, they finally have a chance to do it. So let's see how things develop. But it is definitely very interesting to see how China is applying this very ancient philosophy from Sun Tzu, how Trump is using his art of the deal, and how this will all work out in the end. Anyway, thanks for paying attention, guys, and let's hope things develop for the best for everybody. Cheers.